Well, the collapse in talks comes just one day after the president made a nationally televised primetime pitch for the border wall. His performance won him, believe it or not, a smaller audience than the Democrats got in their response. His Oval Office address offered no new arguments for the wall, instead focusing on grim assertions about what he cast as a national security crisis at the border. As I said, preliminary vote ratings last night gave the president's speech that was followed by Pelosi and Schumer. Those people got higher ratings than the president himself for his performance. The New York Times reports that privately, Trump dismissed the need for speech, writing this. In an off-the-record lunch with television anchors hours before his TV address, Trump made clear in blunt terms that he was not inclined to give this speech or to go to Texas this Thursday, but was talked into it by his PR advisors, according to two people briefed on the discussion. Quote, "It's not going to change a damn thing, but I'm still going to do it," Trump said of the border visit. Well, this is one Trump prediction that fact checkers are unlikely to disagree with. I'm joined right now by Donna Edwards, a former Democratic congressman from Maryland, Peter Baker, chief White House correspondent for the New York Times, and David Jolly. He's a former Republican congressman from Florida who is no longer affiliated with his former party. You describe in a history book what's going on right now. A president of the United States who says, I'm going to build a wall where I'm going to shut down the government in perpetuity, apparently. A Speaker of the House speaking for the Democrats saying building a wall is an immorality. It's gotten that iconic, that, lack of give on either side, which is bringing the government to a halt. And also the president saying, with regard to the Russian investigation, I'm not talking to the prosecutor. No, no, no is the the president's answers to all questions.
Well, look, it's a high-stakes moment for this president and for the speaker, in fact. I mean, I think you accurately summed it up. Both sides have now locked themselves in to positions that don't easily give to any kind of compromise. If the wall is immoral, then it's immoral whether it's $1 billion or $5 billion or any amount of money. And if it's absolutely vital to the security of our country and otherwise blood is going to flow, then cutting in half the money isn't really a satisfying answer for the president either. So they're both locked into these positions where there's not an easy middle ground anymore. Now, what that might lead us to is this idea of the national emergency. The president has talked about that. He again said today he might opt for that. That would be where he would declare that he can unilaterally move money around to construct the wall under national emergency powers that have previously been given to the president by Congress. There'll be a fight about this. This will go to court, and it'll be, raising the stakes of this fight even further.
Do you think this is one of those the expression, don't throw me in the briar patch, don't make me do this? I wonder whether Trump wants to be forced into this extreme measure of declaring a national emergency, because that allows the government to open up again. It allows him to meet the objections or claims and screamings of Rush Limbaugh, and it gets him some money from the Army to build the wall, at least until the court says no.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think this may be the way out, because otherwise it's hard to see how they reopen the government without some sort of middle ground. And it may not be allowed by the courts. It may be that he's ultimately told he can't do this, or maybe he will be. But either way, you're right. He gets to tell his base, look how hard I'm fighting for you. I am calling this an emergency. I'm doing everything possible to protect this country. And if the courts were to stop him, that would just be one more, point to make to his supporters. Look what they're trying to do to stop me here.
Donna Edwards, so often we sit around this table anywhere where people are thinking and say, he can't fire the attorney general. He can't fire the defense secretary. He's the only sound person around him. He can't fire his chief of staff. He can't. Who says he can't declare a national emergency and just go ahead and do it and have a big court fight?
Well, I think he believes, obviously, that he can declare a national emergency. There will be a court fight. But here's where I've always believed that this is going to end. This week, paychecks are supposed to go out to 800,000 workers. They're not going to get them. Small businesses are affected. You've gone through on this show all of the things that are impacted. Those things are being felt by the senators and the representatives in those states. They will be hearing from folks when they go home over the weekend. This is not sustainable. And so I think the president has run into a rabbit hole. Congressional Republicans are sitting on top of it, but they all got to get off. And you know what's on the table? The Senate bill, $1.3 billion for border security, something that passed the U.S. Senate, that is still on the table. And so it's not actually even right for Republicans to say that Democrats haven't offered anything. It's sitting there and it's waiting in the Senate.
Well, President Trump's visit to Capitol Hill this afternoon came amid reports, at least, of growing cracks in GOP support over this shutdown. House Democrats, meanwhile, increased pressure on the Senate, voting late today to fund the Treasury Department and the IRS, although that bill is dead on arrival in the Senate. 5 Republican senators, Colorado's Cory Gardner, Maine's Susan Collins, North Carolina's Tom Tillis, Alaska's Lisa Murkowski, and West Virginia's Shelley Moore Capito have all spoken out in favor of ending this shutdown. The other pictures are, after today's lunch with the Senate Republicans, President Trump insisted, however, that Republicans remain solid and united.
Many Republicans today in that meeting tell you that they want you to pursue a different strategy, that they want you to reopen the government.
We talked about, a couple talked about strategy, talked about strategy, but they're with us all the way. The Republicans are totally unified.
Well, Senator Murkowski told reporters she did, in fact, challenge the president.
I did suggest that there was some separation in terms of how long the shutdown would continue.
Do you have the meeting with?
The meeting with the president? Mm-hmm. I wish that we had had a little more clear direction as to how we're going to get there.
This is a tough one for your former party, David, because it seems to me the way I set it up iconically, and Peter agreed with me, you got a guy who says if you don't have the wall, you're not a Trumpite, you're not a Republican. Even Lindsey Graham says if he doesn't get the wall, he's going down. At the same time, if you're a Democrat, you're basically with Pelosi, who sees the wall as an equal, iconically important thing to them, saying if you build this wall, it's an attack on Hispanics, an attack on all kinds of goodness in this country. It's a very bad symbol for the country. We can't do it. What do you do if you're a Republican? You have to choose between Pelosi and Trump.
Well, I think those senators you're hearing from have been given some breathing room, and Mitch McConnell's ultimately going to protect them because Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump have struck a deal. McConnell's not going to allow a vote, so Tillis and Murkowski and others can say they wish they would have a vote, but McConnell's not going to bring it up. But look, I don't think Donald Trump gives in because he does have the most to lose. As Lindsey Graham said, you pointed out, Chris, it could be the end of his presidency if he gives in on this issue. He can't go into 2020 without his base, which is why, to Peter's point about a national emergency, here's why I think Donald Trump ultimately, and it could be very soon, declares it. It's not just about saying, I'm going to build the wall by myself. I don't need Congress. He can turn around and restore pay for our Coast Guardsmen and Coast Guards women. He can restore USDA food processing or food inspections. He can be the guy that actually has higher approval ratings than the United States Congress historically and say, you know what? This is exactly why I came, is to break this whole thing down and to fix it. And if it means taking hits for being an autocrat, at least I'm going to reopen government and I'm going to be the empathetic figure that solves this. And then what do Democrats do? Then they're just challenging the president on taking extra constitutional authority. They can't actually challenge him on the merits of reopening the government.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.